All right, well, Justin Yeo, good morning.
Good morning.
This is 10 Minutes of Tennis with world-renowned tennis pro, Australian in Puerto Rico. Actually, right now, I think you're in Michigan, but
Morning.
this
Michigan, yeah.
is 10 that minutes is of tennis. Okay. We can talk to you from anywhere. Tennis pro,
Yeah.
Australian in Puerto Rico. Actually, right now, I think you're in. I have a sound
Michigan,
issue
yeah.
on my end. Hang on one second. Let me make sure I've got all my mutes on. And I will start that again for those of you that are going to listen later. And we will say good morning one more time now that my sound makes sense. And we should be good to go. So, no sound at all. That's not good. All right, let me make sure we got sound first. Device in is that. Device in is that. No sound at all. All right, let's go to here where we are unmuted, which is good. And hang on one second. This is the fun part about live stuff. It's like, hey, it's working. Wait, no, it's not. No, it's not. What happens if I mute this? Unmute that. Can you hear me now? Let's see. And then the question is, do I get a feedback loop, which is always fun? And who can hear me? Somebody out there, tell me if you can hear me, because I want to make sure this is working right. Because we are making a switch. Sound is on. All right, cool. So we got a sound is on Instagram, even though Instagram's funny because it's profile. So you've only got like the middle of us. You don't really get to see us on Instagram the way we're doing it now. But let's check the Facebook and see if I can make sure that works, and then we'll figure it out. Hang on one second. Sounds great there. All right, so I think we're good. We're going to call it a go. So we'll do it again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Justin Yeo, world-renowned tennis pro, Australian in Puerto Rico. We have our 10 minutes of tennis. And today, our 10 minutes live starts a few minutes late, but that's all right. We will get over it. And we're not on island time. We're on Michigan time this morning. So the extra few minutes is all right. Justin Yeo, the athletic base is what we're talking about today. It's
Yes.
interesting to me that it just happens to follow up from last week's conversation, which says, hey, if you're going to get one fundamental right, I'm pretty sure you said, let's make it the athletic base. The ready stance.
The ready stance.
Yes. So
Yeah.
the athletic base, talk to me. What are we talking about?
Well, I mean, it's absolutely critical. You can't move in multiple directions. You can't read perception-wise. You require the athletic base to even strike the ball correctly and control the ball. People don't realize, but the athletic base is the major muscle groups, and the striking the ball is the little muscle groups. I try to break it down as easy as that to help people understand that. You look at the little muscle groups in your forearm and in your arm compared to the athletic base, which is your glutes and major leg muscles and your core. It's just so critical that the athletic base is always active and alive. And you'll be surprised how many people don't know what the athletic base is, like how to correctly stance. And then the other thing that's surprisingly is how unfit they are to be able to hold the athletic base. And that's why a lot of people get tired on the tennis court or swing away and have shoulder problems or wrist problems or elbow problems because they don't use their athletic base. I mean, the amount of people that have had tennis elbow and just by showing them the athletic base, understanding how to go in the gym and strengthen all those muscles, uh, it can help automatically take away the pressure off the elbow. And next thing you know, you got no tennis elbow. So it is the position for the whole game. You only have to watch the players. Everyone says, "Well, look how easy they hit the ball. Look how smooth they hit the ball." And look how great their athletic base is. It is like held in position, comfortably balanced, still every time. So you know, it's basically the base, the core of everything.
Okay, you've sold me. Can you describe it? So forget my fitness and whether or not I can get down into it. I'm going to
Okay.
work
Yeah.
on that this year, right? We've already decided everybody's working on their fitness. Everybody's going to be
Yep.
ready for what Justin teaches us in the 10 minutes of tennis. Can you describe that athletic base? Is there a generic version for everyone?
Yeah. I mean, quite commonly where people struggle is I tell them, look, if you arch your back and stick your bum out, uh, they will find it hard to get into that position. But when you do that position, it actually starts to force the ground, like everything going down into the ground and getting ready to explode. Obviously, you go into your heels there, and we've got to explain to everybody you've got to be into the balls of your feet. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to move. So probably the two things I would focus on is I always say, look, just let's stick your bum out and let's get your weight in the balls of your feet. That's at least the start. The next step obviously is to try to make your back straight versus curled, because that, we don't want people with back pain. But at least they understand where the weight goes and where it gets distributed. A very, very good point that is across the globe right now, and they've done a big study on this with junior development and why players get in their 20s and end up not being able to play tennis or not being able to be professional anymore is because of hips. Hips at the moment, for a long time, there were a lot of juniors and a lot of younger players trying to do what Djokovic does with big wide stance. And because their hips are quite agile, they would be able to probably do that. But what they were doing is pushing against the developed hip, that they're overextending the ligaments and tendons, so that when they finally get to adulthood, if they're still doing the same thing, they're all they're doing is harming their hips and making their hips. A lot of injuries happen in the hips. If you can look this up, but there are a lot of players that go in the hips because of the wide stance in an early age. And what they've identified too is that you really don't need to be that wide. If you just need to be wide enough that you can respond and use your body. Now, can you get more flexible? Can you get stronger? Yes, you can. But commonly, that's not a thing that most players focus on. And I've seen way too many players with their trying to make the stance wide enough, and they can't react. Athletic base wise, can't react if the feet are too wide. So
So
if there's some,
that's a similar thing where we talk about volleys, or we talk about a lot of things where we say, okay,
mm,
look, you're not Roger, right? You're
mm,
not Novak. So
mm,
don't go out and just assume that you're going to be able to do what these superheroes can do.
mm.
Let's find a starting point. And my starting point that I've always been told is hips width apart, because that's going to keep my balance. Now, as I get stronger and better, you're telling me that widens?
It can, but you've really the easiest way to know where your spot is to put your feet together, like move them a little bit, jump in the air, and then as you jump in the air and land, you will commonly land where your hips and your body feels the most comfortable. You will never land like this, and you'll never land like this. So it's where you land is where you absorb the ground, and that's the kind of athletic base we want to be in to be able to move in every direction. Um, so that's a really critical point to make in athletic base, is to making sure that your feet are the right width. Because I've even seen people get to this position, and then as soon as they go to play, they start to widen. But as they widen, their feet aren't going to be explosive anymore because they haven't got the absorption and the power. The power comes from being in the prime position, and that if there was any kind of big element that I can help development coaches and amateur coaches that are working with USTA people, you could get a massive tip at the end of a lesson just by someone coming on the court and saying, I'm just too slow. I don't have good footwork, and I keep getting told that I've got horrible footwork. And once you find their hip position, tell them to read the ball or watch the racket and read the ball, all of a sudden they're not only fast, but they're actually moving better, and they're positioning better and striking the ball better, all from just getting the proper foot position with their hips, lining them up. So hip, if you have them right under your hips, I'd say it's probably too narrow, but you will never commonly jump there. When you jump in the air, you'll tend to move you a little bit wider. Um, and some people are just a little more flexible or stronger, and they go a little wider, and then some a little more narrow. But the key factor is you want to be effective in your athletic base. And the only way to do this is to find that a happy spot.
And that's going to get me, whatever my fitness level, that's going to get me
Yeah.
to the best of my ability now. And
Yes.
then I can consider I'm going to get fitter, I'm going to get stronger, I'm going to get faster. But that gives me that point of saying, okay, this is as fast as I can be now. It reminds me of a conversation I had with an NFL player, and he was a cornerback, so he was a defensive guy. And I asked him one time what he does for a living. He says, I backpedal. Basically, I run backwards for a living. And tennis players don't just run one direction, and obviously neither did he, but that was a majority of his kind of movement to be where he needed to be. My guess is he didn't spend a lot of time on his heels running backwards, because that's where you can't, once you lean back, you can't move. You can't change direction, and that's where that split step, that little bounce on the toes with, you say, stick your butt out, you say bum, right? Stick your bum out. And in that case, find that happy medium in your feet, because you're not Novak. You're not going to be out wide like that. But you're also not Gael Monfils with that kind of strange feet together. That guy's a super athlete anyway. Don't worry about mimicking him. Find that comfort zone for yourself is what you're saying.
Right. And it's very minimal people Djokovic. Djokovic was already very flexible. Like, some people are just born with very, very flexible joints. And if you actually spoke to him, he works at his flexibility, but he actually works at his strength in range of motion more than it works on his flexibility. When we see him lift his leg up and he does all these things, that's very natural, easy for him. For most of us, that's actually really difficult to be able to stretch that far. But what he has to be conscious of is the strength in that range of motion at the width, at the length that he can go. If he doesn't, that's where the injuries happen. So, we're all a little bit different. And in athletic base-wise, just find those comfort zones, know that that's where your boundaries are, and you'll be effective.
So strength, range of motion. Sounds like Novak secretly does a lot of Pilates, is basically what I'm hearing.
Pilates and yoga. Does both for hours every day. Every day.
And that's probably what we all need in our lives. Justin Yeo, know the athletic base. I like it. We start from the fundamentals last week. We talk about the athletic base. What we all need in our lives. Know where you need to be. Know the athletic base. So much. I like it. We started from the fundamentals last week.
Yeah, mate.
We talk about the athletic base. What we all need in our lives. Know where you need to be. Know the athletic base. So much. I like it. We started from the fundamentals.